Hey everyone, and welcome to another Elements tutorial for Planet Coaster, where today we're going to be looking at the dive loop. This is a very good element to build. They have specific shapes that we need to get down, and a bit of tricky banking if we're going to build a B&M one, which is, I think, the one we're going to do today. The way you build this applies for both inverts and sit-downs, though you don't normally see dive loops on sit-downs unless they're new-gen ones like Banshee and, Ozurus, the one in Park Asterix or whatever. So yeah, anyway, let's just kick it off with the dive loop now. Okay, so the way to build dive loops is they have a quite interesting shape to them for the B&M ones. Basically how it works is the banking slightly increases with the turn as you go into the dive loop, and then it whips at the very top to actually give the kind of unique shaping. And in order to do that, you can't use the in-game one or anything like that. Because the in-game one, the actual banking is a constant increase. You can see that, and plus, well, this transition in will pull about 17 Gs. But yeah, you can see that it's like a constant increase in banking, and then it goes over. So we're going to instead give it so you can get the realistic banking. So we're going to start with a nice about 3.5 foot banking offset, and we're going to start with a slight increase of both banking and pitch. Not so much yaw, maybe a little bit, maybe about 0.6. So we're going to gradually increase the banking and the turn, as well as, we're going to increase pretty much everything, but we'll make sure we keep a nice smooth entry. So maybe go up about, what was that? That was 6. So go up about 9 degrees maybe at the start. Increase the banking a little bit more. Sorry, the turn. We're going to continue again. This time I'm going to go up about 10 because we're going to increase a little bit more. So basically what we're going to want to do now is start increasing the turning but not so much the banking. So we're going to increase again a little bit more, but then start the banking a little bit and take off the turn slightly. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to have it increase and at the top whip over. So now we're going to just add a little bit more. But again, we're not going to edit the banking so much. Actually, we will need to increase the banking, but also just the turning a little bit more. But not... So at this point, we're going to level off the the pitch a little bit, so it's very gradual. More of a turn. Basically, it should look like there's no increase in banking, when, there actually is. But this is the way that B&M shape. They're very strange shaped dive loops, B&M's ones, but then again, B&M like to shape around forces rather than every manufacturer designs around forces, but B&M design their tracks. They design it very specifically so that their forces can be kept as minimal as possible, which does actually cause some very strange shapes, like here, because if they had a constant increase, it would, cause weird lats. So I'm gonna keep going. Keep increasing, keep a little bit more banking. As you can see here, we're starting with the entry into the dive loop. So keep going with this, keep going with that, a little bit more. Dive loops are normally around 100 foot tall, 90 depending on the actual initial height of your, drop. So I think we're going to aim for ours to be about 90 feet tall, I think. So now that we've reached about a 50-degree incline, about 50 degrees on the banking, I'm going to increase it slightly, place it again, and now we're going to start the whip over the top. And what this does is we're going to start snapping the banking quite heavily, but increase the yaw quite a lot here. And then we're going to start aiming this slightly down. So you can see here we've got a 50-degree incline again. We've snapped it to 73, but we've increased the yaw to about 14. Now we're going to decrease this again, snap the banking over again, and then keep increasing it. It's useful to look from the top to make sure that you're not going to cause too much of a snap. But if you don't get the shaping down perfect first try, you can always go back and edit it when we're smoothing it out. So we're going to just whip over around the top. This is going to be a steep dive loop because you can't actually build quite a lot of different variations of dive loops. You can have quite level ones that go off like that. You can have steep ones like this. Steep ones like Kraken has quite a steep one, and Seawall even. How did I forget what Kraken was? Actually, I'm gonna start here. Sorry, we're gonna start going down a bit more. So I'm gonna just like tweak that, and then decrease that. But then we're gonna start going down more when the whip increases. Sorry. So about 45 degrees. Whip it over to about 13, and then start the snap to about 70. Yep. The heart lining again will make this look taller than it actually is. So now that we've got this going, pull that down more. Your yaw can stay pretty much constant at this point. Now we're going to pull this down to about 15, whip the banking over further, and we're going to start decreasing the yaw so we can start leveling out for the top of the dive loop. As you can see here, we've got the nice shape going on, and then it whips over at the top. So 15, 4, and 152. And now we're going to completely level out on the yaw. Actually, no. We're going to whip it over to 180 degrees at about 0. No, actually, maybe not 0. Pull it down a little bit more. But we've kept a little bit of yaw going on, maybe like 2 degrees. So then we're going to stop that. Snap that to 0. Going to quickly make sure our angle is 180 degrees by just clicking that, deleting it, and then 180. Because we're now not working with any banking, you can turn the offset off because your pieces will actually become slightly distorted due to the offset causing, you know, strange things. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the pull-out. Now, usually, well, I used to make these quite teardrop shaped, but B&M ones are quite circular. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by increasing this quite constantly, so that, you know, you pass the 90-degree mark about midway through the actual loop. And we're going to keep going down. I realise I'm going a bit fast here. Honestly, when you're building these, start by pulling it up quite quickly, and then as you get towards the bottom, pull it up slightly less. So maybe if you're pulling it up by, I don't know, about 15 degrees here, then you want to drop it to like 13, 10, maybe 6, and then keep a 6 constant or something at the bottom, as the bottom of the radius is normally quite a constant circle. So here we're at 9. I think we're going to go at 10 here, so if I hit 19, 9, and then 1, and then 11, 21, and then 31. As you can see here, we've actually got the shape of the dive loop down pretty nicely. You can see there, it's a very nice gentle pull down into that. And it should be quite a nice ride, quite a nice element to actually ride on. Actually, I think I might make the top of that slightly tighter. So we're going to increase that. Just do exactly what we did, but tweak the shaping of it slightly, as I think that was a little bit circular. Here we go, this is better. So if I go, and then 10 each time here. Yeah, there you go, that's much better. So make the top of this slightly tighter, less circular, and then it eases into it to create that. Okay, so this is basically the rough shape you want to create. You know, you have the banking slowly increase and then whip over at the top into the dive loop. From the top, it should look like this. There should be a slight, you know, missing of the track there, so it, you know, like that. But apart from that, that's pretty good. I think now we'll just make a few adjustments, and I'd say that's pretty smooth. Maybe pull this out a little bit. Pull this down. Drop it to there. So we get roughly this shape here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So what we're going to start with for the smoothing process is we're simply just going to take the pieces of track that are at 180 degrees. So, you know, this piece here, because it snaps to 180, and all of the unbanked pieces, and we're going to hit smooth all a few times to get it nice and smooth. is make sure that our radius of our dive loop is absolutely smooth as possible, and that way we won't have any G-force inconsistencies. Alright, so that's pretty good. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the, entrance into the dive loop. A bit of a word problem there. And we're going to pull it up to here, so just before the whip starts. And we're going to hit the smooth all a few times. And what this will do is it means that our entry into our dive loop will be just as smooth as the exit is as well. And we'll, of course, we'll go back and readjust the banking and all that, and then we'll be absolutely sorted and ready to go. Alright, so now that we've done that, we're going to go from this piece here all the way to, the first one that's completely snapped to 180 degrees. And we're just going to hit the smooth all 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Not too many that it's going to ruin our shaping, but not too little that it's going to do absolutely nothing for the smoothing. So yeah, I think that looks like a pretty good dive loop to me so far. We've got the nice B&M shape. It's not a little flat at the top, is it? No, I think that's actually maybe adjust that one slightly, and maybe that one there. Sorry, I've got autosave at the moment. It should be a little bit laggy. There we go. Okay, so now that we actually have the dive loop smoothed, like the radius and shape smooth, we're just going to readjust the banking. So we'll start by increasing these ones so that the pull-in isn't going to pull any lats. Maybe make that about 22 degrees. Basically, what you want to do is you want to edit all the track pieces so that they look like they're about the same banking. They won't, of course. There'll be slightly different values because of the turn. So this one's 21 degrees, that one's 27. But actually, there shouldn't be any like banking increase on the train. So if we increase that one again, increase that one. That one's a bit too much. And now we're going to get ready to do the whip. So the whip is quite snappy. Increase that one there, and then increase that one to 174 degrees. So basically, you should see there that it's constant. That one's a bit too much. See there, like minimal banking, snap over the top there. So overall, I've made this about a 94-foot dive loop, and it's got the B&M shape to it. So if you want to turn this into like a 2-meter dive loop, you can do, which I will do in a second, but if you want to keep this as a 4-meter, I'd recommend, again, using just 3 pieces back and forth a few times. That way you're not going to ruin your banking with 4, and God forbid you use 6 on 4-meter, because the banking will like absolutely be ruined, but I recommend 3 pieces will be absolutely fine. So yeah, next step for us is to turn it into 2-meter pieces. Okay, now we have the element in 2-meter pieces. All we need to do is, well, for this dive loop, I recommend, again, going up to the parts that are unbanked and have absolutely no rolling at all, hitting the smooth all first, so like the pull out. If I do this for about maybe 5 or 10 seconds, that way we can get the smooth first, don't have to worry about it. And then exactly the same here to the actual, just before the whip, so there. Hit that again for about 5 or 10 seconds. We'll go back and adjust the banking. I'd say that's probably about smooth. And now we select the whole element and we hit the smooth all again for maybe 10 to 15 seconds just to get the actual shape perfectly smooth. That looks, I'd say that looks pretty good to me. Alright. Now that we've done that, all we need to do now is just readjust all of the banking. For dive loops and elements like loops, this is super easy because all we need to do is go to the points where we don't want any banking, so out here. Check 90 degrees, move it slightly, and then all of these pieces have now been readjusted to be 0 degrees, or at least they should be. 0, 0. You should set these on. Yeah, these are all at 0. So again, all you need to do, check that, select the whole thing, and then roll it slightly, and then all your pieces should be nice and smooth. Yeah, that looks about fine to me. Yeah, 179.99 is pretty much perfect. Now that we've done that, we're just going to readjust all the banking for the entrance, which actually doesn't look that bad at all, you know. This one here is going to be a bit snappy, so increase that banking a little bit, and there as well. It's actually not too bad at all. The smoothing it all hasn't actually ruined our banking at all. So only like minor areas actually need to be slightly readjusted. There we go. A little bit more on that piece there. And then I'd say start decreasing these ones so we can keep our whip. Alright, now at this point what we want to do is start making our whip. So if I roll this over, start the decrease in banking. That's going to be too snappy. And then gradually decrease these. Let me just check, make sure there's not like a complete lack of banking. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Should increase in the banking nicely. Maybe actually increase these two. Yep, that looks absolutely fine to me. So now that we actually have the bare bone shape down, we've got the banking. That needs to absolutely be a little bit more over now that I'm looking at it from that angle. See, a massive tip for just generally building elements in Planet Coaster is never be satisfied with the initial build. Always go back and tweak it. Always go back to make sure that there's no areas where your banking's if it was like that, make sure you always adjust things. Make it look like it's been smoothed before it's actually been smoothed, and then you'll absolutely get much more consistent elements that have minimal jittering and bouncing on the element radius. Yeah, so that's one of my tricks. But the longer you keep at realistic element editing, the more you'll be able to recognize slight inconsistencies. Like I've been playing this game for so long that I've kind of got a little bit of an idea of what elements should look like. Of course, that they're never going to be 100% realistic because well you don't have force vector design. But if you can see if you can see a turn and then you can imagine how much banking it needs, it makes it a lot easier. And stuff like that, it generally just comes with practice. So honestly, keep at it. You'll be absolutely great if you just keep tweaking your elements. And a really good help is watching no limits POVs, and maybe even getting no limits and building some elements like that. It really does help, because then you take some of the knowledge you gained from that software and then you apply it to Planet Coaster, and it can really help. Anyway, sorry about that bit of a rant there, but yeah, let's get on with the smoothing, which we will start with 6 pieces, and I'll let you know how many times we do that for. So for the 6-piece smoothing, for elements like dive loops, I don't tend to like using them too much, because areas like this, when you smooth them too much, you start increasing the banking too soon, and then you get your whip reduced and then increased lats because it turns too much banked. And then areas at the top of the dive loop, they then increase in banking too much as well. So I only really like to do, well, what I did there is I went forwards and then backwards once. That just kind of equalizes the banking up onto the entrance a little bit better, so that you're not going to have wobble as well. So now I think we will do a few passes using 3 pieces, and then I'll see if we can do the little banking trick like I've been doing on some of my elements on the dive loop. But sometimes it doesn't quite work, but I will we'll trial and error and see what happens. Okay, so for the smoothing here, I just went forwards, backwards, and then forwards again. So, I did 3 passes of the 3-piece smoothing, and I think that pretty much gets our elements, the banking pretty much sorted and nice and constant. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if we can use the little trick. So I'm going to start smoothing backwards to, well, it's a bit of a difficult point, because when it's inversions, the banking starts getting rough when the value passes 90 degrees. But on turns it's 45 degrees, so we're going to have to see if I can find a value that is 90 degrees that I'm able to tweak. Otherwise, because if I've done this before and I haven't actually got it working properly, and I've had jittery, well, I've done it on a Cobra roll before and I have actually had jittery banking, and it hasn't exactly worked too well. But it's really a trial and error kind of process, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to smooth backwards from here and try and find the value where it passes 90 degrees. That's 119, that's 103. So I think it's this piece here, so I'm going to mark this with a colour. Actually, wait, no, I need to remember what piece I'm smoothing on. Right, it's this one here. So I'm going to smooth once, and then I'm going to smooth twice. And now, this piece here, it's super hard to see. We're going to twist it over slightly. Just twist it over slightly. That way we should, if everything has gone right, be able to have a smoother radius on the dive loop. It does kind of look like a bit of a jitter there. I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can do there, actually. Actually, maybe, what if, I think maybe this piece might work better. So I'm going to adjust that one instead. Yeah, I think that one's worked better personally. So yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, you do not have to do this by any means, as it is a very finicky process, but hopefully if this works, then we should have a little bit smoother banking on it. But overall, this looks like a brilliantly shaped dive loop. I think this will, hopefully have a nice whip to it and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the shakedown. That's the smooth. Let's give it a quick test and see what it's like. You can see there we've got the nice whip into the top of the dive loop. Some good forces as well. Pulled about 4 there. And honestly, the lateral Gs on this were actually really good as well. I think we bottomed out at about 0.4. On the entrance, we've got near enough 0. 0.3, 0.01, yeah, about 0.5 at the top, which really isn't so bad for dive loops. And plus this, I think with the banking trick, that actually worked really smooth. So honestly, find the value next to 90 and I think that's the one to adjust. So let's give it a quick test from guest facing and see what it's like. Oh, it's very smooth. Yeah, that's a really smooth dive loop. I think that has gone genuinely really well. So, yeah, that is pretty much how you make dive loops in, well, B&M dive loops in Planet Coaster. This is a bit of a strange tutorial because it's kind of not so difficult. It's just getting the banking right that is, the kind of tricky part. Again, please leave in the comments if you need any help. I'd be more than happy to provide a little bit more assistance or steps on this. Especially with the, the banking trick. I could make a whole video on the little banking trick if you guys would want to see that. So I can, make it even more clear how to use it on turns and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I want to again say thank you very much for the support on the recent videos, especially the B&M drop one with the lighting. You guys seem to really find that one helpful, and I'm really glad about that. So I think I may do some more kind of 2-part tutorials where you've got maybe like an element and then supports for it, or like an element and then a spine for it, some scenery perhaps, maybe even lighting again. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and please stay tuned for some more element tutorials, and I will see you all next time.